Mother, there's a side to me you don't know, different to the child with the smile in your photos. Made some decisions, some wrong, some right. Now strangers hold my number when I'm sleeping.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time in Belarus, so I'm very privileged to be here. I've not done a translated keynote before, so I'm not sure if I should pause or if you're all going to get translations in the ear. One of you can help me. So I'll try and go slow and work out how to do it. I've got two clickers here to kind of go through everything.
Rose, excuse me.
Okay.
We should check if everything is okay. Ті чутно вам, ті працює. Бо всі все працює класно. Все.
Right. Okay, so I've been a teacher for 25 years. I've been working in high schools in London all that time. I qualified as a design and technology teacher, so in 1993. So that's those subject disciplines are graphics, food, technology, textiles. So I'm very, very creative. I was a school leader up to vice principal in a large secondary school in London. So pupil population 1,700 pupils and 250 staff, teachers. So I was in charge of the teacher professional development as well as looking after all the children. About 2008, I started blogging as Teacher Toolkit. I was very interested in the technology and the social media. And I guess thinking of the presentation this morning, the panel, this one talks about you will write all these lesson plans in great detail, whether it helps you or not. It's more of a compliance. Okay, so there's very little research to suggest having a detailed lesson plan makes you a better teacher or actually improves the lesson quality. What it does is, if I'm a school leader and not a very good one, it allows me to track what everybody's doing for consistency. I think I've been to 150 schools in the last 2 years. Not one school, even if they get excellent exam results or really poor, not one school has said they have consistency. And that's in schools with 10 teachers or 100 teachers. So sometimes when we want to make everyone do the same thing, we set ourselves up to fail. So we need something from high accountability to too loose. We need something in the middle, where teachers can be free to use their expertise to develop. This picture, I'm going to show you a picture of myself when I was struggling as a school leader. We all have mental health, but we don't talk about it enough, particularly in the workplace. And I think it's really good to see lots of celebrities talking about mental health. So I think on Thursday it was World Mental Health Day. So when you talk to someone else, say, how are you doing? It's okay to not be okay. We all struggle in here. There are a lot of hidden illnesses. So this image I'm going to show you is 2 weeks after inspectors came to my school and essentially closed the school to say it wasn't very good. I had on social media 250,000 teachers saying these ideas are amazing, they're really helping me. But 5 inspectors came into the school for 1.5 days or 2 days and didn't like what they saw. So the impact was on me, mental health wise, and also the school was lots of the teachers left, the pupils are left to suffer, lots more money by the government to spend to try and make the school improve. And actually 2 years later you could argue that the school, there's lots of things that we do in schools, but very little has changed. And many of the pupils were excluded also. So this is me at 6 a.m. in the morning, it's called blepharitis. It's an eye infection. So it's my body being stressed to say all the pressure of the inspections coming out. So I only had, I think, 6 hours sleep over 2 days. The head teacher was removed, although that was kept quiet for a long time. I had nosebleeds, diarrhea, insomnia, just from the stress. Now, I've always chosen to work in very difficult schools. You know, students from low-income families, poverty, many languages. So my school, my last school, the children spoke 75 different languages. And when I lost my job to redundancy in 2011, that's when I started blogging as a teacher. And eventually, despite the stigma of being redundant, I blogging and choosing to work in a tough school again. When the school was essentially closed, I decided, well, I'm not going to stay here, and you probably don't want a school leader to work part-time or talk about teaching on social media to the world. It maybe isn't compatible with government. So I decided to leave and come and share ideas with lots of teachers around the country and in different countries. So this one, particularly number 5, is we have a retention crisis. We think we actually have a model that actually pushes teachers out, maybe accidentally. Okay? This one, I'll talk about this maybe in my workshop, Mark Plan Teach. In England for decades, we had a process where someone would come to your classroom and observe you and put you in a box. You were either not very good or you were very good. And you were judged in 20, 30 minutes. So I've been teaching 20 years. Someone comes to my classroom and judges my performance in 20 minutes. This is what we do to each other. I don't think that would happen in psychology or medicine. So what we need to do as teachers is follow research that's more reliable and start to do things that are encouraging teachers to grow, rather than measuring teachers, which we also do with children. We measure pupils also. So I'm currently researching. I'm going to share a couple of things that I've been finding on my travels. I'm doing my PhD at Cambridge University. And I'm using all my social media work to understand how me and a few other people are sharing their ideas that influence what government decide to do. So I've got 4 strands. Let's see. My clicker stopped working here. Oh, there we go. Oops. There we go. So I'm looking at 4 areas of inquiry. Number 1, democracy. Anybody can share a view. Well, in most countries, unless the government say you can't. You know, when I went to China, a lot of my slides were on Google, that you can't use them. Number 2, I've used social media to learn, to be a better teacher, to access research, to talk to teachers in Belarus, China, South Africa, and to share ideas. Number 3, you'll see this is a good example. In many ways, you are all activists. Okay, doing it quietly, because you're sharing ideas in your own time, not during the week when you're working and you have to be with your school. So people are creating petitions or making videos and putting them on YouTube or Twitter and sharing their views. So every person is now a journalist. I think as a teacher I can now share ideas from my classroom with the world. And then the last one, number 4, solidarity. We come together in groups. So today everyone came to the front and said, I'm doing something on reading, I'm doing something on literacy, I'm doing something on vulnerable pupils. People find their niche and they find what they need the most for their professional development. So I'm analysing this through my 10 years of social media to see what teachers have done through sharing ideas online, how it influences social education policy. This university is in America. It's called Rutgers University. And it compares the differences between teachers, or in fact not teachers, anybody who does these things on social media. So think Kim Kardashian, okay, selfies, okay? And often they will have, so retweet is, can you share my video please? Please share my video. So they're just being selfish. Or they just want attention, so they'll say something controversial just to get everyone's awareness. That's what's called, in this research, me format. What I look at for my own, I guess why I'm here on the stage today, is because I did the in format. So I'm going to show you the difference, and this is what I think teachers do. They do these things. For 10 years on my website, I've shared ideas, resources, all for free. To be better, to share, to pass on to the next generation. And I heard a wonderful quote from a scientist who I interviewed about 1 month ago. She said, there's a special place in hell reserved for teachers who don't share. Okay? So make sure you share. So number 2, share. Number 2, building up ideas. Number 3, sharing resources. Number 4, that's really good, I really like it. I'm going to tell everybody else. Go and visit that school. Go and see Ross in that classroom, in that school. It's amazing, they'll help you. And then, retweeting others. So it's the opposite. And I would probably say that my social media audience has been because I've done this for so long. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just a teacher. And I'm just trying to ask questions and learn more. I get very frustrated when teachers say to me, Ross, you're amazing, you're an influencer, you're very well known. I'm just a teacher, what can I do? I said earlier, you are the power of what can happen in education in Minsk. Not the parents, not the politicians. They do have a part to play. And I think it's very important because we will get support and challenge. But in this room, you are the experts. You've worked for 1 year or 20 or 30 years with children. You understand child psychology. How to make things work in the classroom, how to nurture a child, and that needs to be celebrated more. So what I will share here are probably my top tips. So this is a really good book. I don't know if it's translated. It's called Twitter Power 3.0. You've got here 5 attributes: like, know, trust, buy, and share. So, I'll give you an example. If you go to my website or you've seen Teacher Toolkit before, you like that, I like that idea. Oh, I know who Teacher Toolkit is, it's that red logo, I recognise Ross. Ah, I trust that information. It's a good source of knowledge. Ah, I might buy Ross's book. Or I might go and pay money to go to a training course. And then I share that idea. This is very true to online world, social media. You need to know who the person is. Is it a source to trust? If teachers in Belarus are sharing ideas, we like people, we find specialist areas and we trust them. Think about it in real life. Okay? I'm a postman and I knock your door. You like me. Okay? Tomorrow I come and knock your door, there's a letter. You know me. Okay? Next week I come, knock your door, there's a letter, here's a parcel. You trust me to deliver your mail. What if, number 4, I said, here's some stamps for €1, would you buy them as a postman? You would trust, you like me, you know me, you trust me, you'll buy the stamps. So in real life, it's very important that we remember these hallmarks through social media. Because it's all new for us. Imagine being 10 years old and seeing Twitter and seeing violence and extremism and all those things that our kids are now seeing, it's very new for us still. So it's really important when we communicate to each other on Twitter or Instagram that we understand human behaviours will always overrule, and I think that's why you always need a teacher in the classroom, for that relationships. Okay, you can't see this picture, but what you've got here is, it's a bit like a spider web map. Who's talking to who, when, what are they talking about, how often, and then you can put in lots of different social media platforms keywords. So for example, Belarus and maybe attrition. How many teachers leave schools in Belarus after 5 years? And anybody that's talking about it on social media, you can build up a little map to see patterns of behaviours. So it's quite a fascinating world, all the social media things. Okay, what I want to just finish off with, is the last 2 years I've visited lots of schools. I've got my new book here, so I've got copies of my book somewhere for prizes, but I'll let Katerina and the organisers distribute these. But I've chosen just 10 schools that are very different in Britain. It's not that they're the best schools. They're just normal schools. And all schools face the same challenges. Assessments, curriculum, behaviour, not enough money, building's very good, building's not very good. They all face the same challenges. So I'm trying to highlight one school that does one area really well. So I'm going to just introduce you to each of the schools very quickly and why I went about it. So that's a map just of England of where the places I've been. So I think I've done, it's quite tiring thinking about it, about 80,000 miles in 2 years. Visiting lots of schools, very remote regions, on mountains next to the sea, in cities, everywhere. And maybe we keep doing that model because we can spend less and we'll get better standards. But it makes more pressure, more workload on teachers when teachers leave. What we need is more investments, allow teachers to be the experts and let the teachers shape society and help vulnerable children and most stable children. And I don't know if this is common in Belarus, but in England, we have a system now where we compete against one another, rather than are rewarded for sharing ideas. And what the result of that is that you get lots of people gaming the system, trying to fill in to all the exam conditions to the top of the table. With the bow and arrow, that's Nottingham. I don't know if you know that story, but this is a pupil referral unit or alternative provision. So when a child is expelled, do we know that word expelled, expulsion, banned, bye-bye, they have no education. So there are schools now that take them in and it's their last chance to get some qualifications. Children that go to these types of schools, often in the UK, become the children that end up in gangs or with knife crime. Not always, but the kind of research shows that they're much more vulnerable to be immersed in gang culture, because what the gangs see is all the children are all in one place. It's really easy for us to find them. But that school's doing really well. This school's in Wales. So it's very remote. The nearest school's 20 miles away. I'm not saying it's like Belarus, but when it snows in England or in Wales, it's a real snow day. Sometimes in England we pretend to close the school when it's a little bit of snow. Okay? It's because we don't have the infrastructure to deal with lots of snow, but they get real snow. And this school just has 350 children. And 350 children, there are 11 years, so from 3 years old to 16 years old. In every year group, there are just 30 children. Okay? And the government says they have to offer 25 different subjects when the children reach 14. The problem is for the school is, if you've only got 30 children and 25 subjects, it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. in each class. So the school have had to think very creatively for their curriculum to join classes together, for teachers to teach 2 subjects to make the school functional. If they don't do that, the school would close. And because it's the community, that's their way of being creative. The difficulty for the teacher is they have to teach 2 or 3 subjects just to have a job. Okay, but they're doing some amazing things with curriculum. Next school, this is Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Beautiful, beautiful building. So I had here imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I was worthy going to such an amazing building. My own education was in very poor buildings. So to go and see this type of school in Edinburgh, where people like Tony Blair, or stories about James Bond, the double secret agent in England. It's a great school, but they still face challenges. They still have problems. And actually, it's a boarding school, so the children stay with the teacher for 7 days a week. There's no mum and dad. So the teacher, on Saturday they do sports, and then on Sunday everyone kind of reads the book or does their own thing, but the teacher is the guardian, the parent. So a different challenge. Next school, this is a school in Bristol, so southwest England. Bristol is the cocaine capital, so Class A drugs, of the UK. I only just found out yesterday, so I've lived in London 25 years. Londoners, the drugs, whether it's injections or snorting, 500,000 times a day, which is frightening. And I think it might be the middle class, people that have money, buying drugs that fuel the children from low poverty in gangs and knives, which is sometimes you see on the news, someone's been stabbed in London. We've got a kind of very strange emerging trend of children just stabbing people. It's very sad. So that's something we have to fix as a society. But I found out on my research that Bristol is a challenging area. It's actually the cocaine capital of the world. But Jamie Barry, the head teacher, has moved from a school to work in a tougher school in a difficult area. And what he's found is the teachers are really struggling with their mental health. So a lot of his work is to make sure the teachers are in a happy place to be able to do their work. So they feature in my book about teacher well-being and some of the ideas that they're doing. This school is one of the oldest schools in England. It's a grammar school. So traditionally this type of school, children have to pass an exam test to get into the school. And in England there's a big debate about why a grammar school, why can't we just have all schools that let all children in? And I chose this school particularly because typically grammar schools get very good results because they choose the clever children. But actually what they found is because they're children, they struggle with mental health also. So this school I've chosen it because they are doing amazing work with mental health for children, and they're getting recognition from the English government for their work in pupil mental health. This school is in southeast Kent, so near Dover, when you go from Dover to Calais towards France. And this is a selective area, so all schools choose children based on an exam they sit at 11, and they take the best kids. Sally, the head teacher, is the only school that doesn't do the test. She takes all the rest. And she has a rule that she doesn't exclude any child. They have a farm, they do lots of vocational subjects, so engineering, being a chef, those types of traditional skills, mechanics. And they have a large school, so 2,000 pupils, 300 staff, so about 250 teachers. And they're doing a lot of work for inclusion, so making children, whether you're A star, grade A, or grade E, you're in our school family, and all the children succeed. And they have a different way of providing an education. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Swedish word Kungskapskolan. That's what it means in Swedish. It means knowledge school. And it's their model where all the kids come together, whether they're 11 or 18, and they work together. Deadlines, or they go out to another classroom for some specialist equipment, so maybe to go and make a pizza in a food technology classroom. They come back into a big central space, and the children hot desk. It's like mini people at work, and they're working on lots of different projects. So they use that model in their school. Next school, this is Magdalen College in Oxford. So they're looking at curriculum. This is a private school where parents pay money to go. And Helen Pike, the master, she's done great work in terms of the curriculum. So what do we want our children to learn is also aligned with the teacher's professional development. So where teachers need to learn more, that influences their curriculum decisions. The curriculum also influences what the training they need. And those two that work in together make sure that the teacher knows the most about their subject, more than parents. And the teachers are examiners, so they mark exam scripts at a national level. So they're always receiving training, and if they collect all the exam papers, they see what everyone else is doing around the country, that type of thing. Okay? This school is in West London. Large pupil population, large disadvantage. Slough, so it's just outside London. It has the most kind of global headquarters, so things like McDonald's, Ford, Porsche, big businesses where they have their bases for chief executives. And a lot of these children can expose what's on the local doorstep for future jobs. And we talk about skills quite a lot. What skills do we want our kids to know? I think it's really important that your school brings in local businesses and local experts to see what careers they can have. I went to one school in Switzerland. They have skiing on their curriculum. It makes sense. I went to a school in England by the sea. They don't have rowing on the curriculum. But they should, because maybe the children want to be a sailor. But this school, they're looking at research. So every week their teachers, Dorota talked about research papers. Every week they look at a paper, they ask questions, and they share it in small groups and then come back to the school and share. So this school, in terms of teachers' wisdom, they're learning lots and becoming a very happy school. The last school is a school in Cambridge. So this is a state school with a beautiful brand new building. They will have maybe 650 pupils when it's full. So it started with 11-year-olds, 12, 13, so now they have 16-year-olds. And they have a very small school of teachers. There's only about 30 teachers. When you work in a small school, there's more work to do. So it's very difficult for the teachers because they have to do everything else, but there's less people. And that's the same challenge you'll have with a primary school versus a high school when there's more people. Primary teachers are expected to maybe do more. This school, part of their timetable, they dedicate 15 minutes every week for teacher training. The 15 minutes can just be conversations, research paper. Here's an idea, or a teacher stands up and shares what they've been doing every week. And you might go off and play around with the idea in your classroom and then come back 2 weeks later and gather your feedback and did it work, did it not work, well, we can try differently. So they're using that model. And a lot more schools in England are starting to look at professional development every week. If we think it's good for memory to remind children what they've learned as they go through the curriculum, we should use the same model for us as teachers. We should remind us of what we're doing all the way through the academic year. In England, schools only get 5 days a year for training. Shanghai teachers, top of the PISA rankings, they get 40 days a year. So I don't know how many days per academic year you get in Belarus, but if you only get 5 days or maybe less, get rid of the 1 day and divide the hours every week and make time to do it regularly. 15-20 minutes is enough. Okay, there's all the schools on the map. I've got here, that's all the data, but these are essentially the challenges and strengths. At the top you've got what do the head teachers say they're really good at? And essentially they say they're very confident with pupil mental health, driving the curriculum and teaching and learning. Where the head teachers struggle is because they have less funding, they're struggling to meet the needs of their children's social emotional needs or their disabilities. And also the second one talks about teacher well-being. Teachers need help how to manage their mental health and how to balance their workload versus being happy in life. The last point, I think it might be this word here, is research. I'm so busy in the classroom, I don't have time to start with research. Where do I start? Can I trust it? And what do I do with the information? So John Hattie's work's great, but it doesn't tell teachers what to do. And what we have to do is work out, this is what research says, this is how we're going to do it. Really important that it's not a checklist or things to copy, because some things will work in one school but they won't work in yours. So you should take one or two bits that you like, play around with it. And research says you should do that for at least 2 months to 8 months, so a one academic term, to be able to try what happened before versus what happened after, so you can work out if it works. The teachers, so number 3 and number 4, the teachers are very good at teaching and learning, so yes, that's a good sign. They all report that they're confident with their classroom, but where they struggle is their own mental health, their own well-being, and managing the needs of their pupils, so they have less cash. Sometimes we have a teaching assistant in the classroom to help the teacher. Because there's less cash, those teaching assistants are gone. So the teacher now has to manage the 30 children, and some are vulnerable, some have disabilities, some speak a different language, some are very able, some need some help. And it becomes more difficult for the teacher. And the last point, research. Teachers don't know where to start. They don't know how to trust the research or what to do. Okay, so takeaway. What I'm going to do in my Mark Plan Teach is give lots of teachers practical ideas to reduce the burden and be more effective. I hope that translates well into kind of Russian in terms of the strategies. So we'll see, we'll have a bit of fun. But this is one of my ideas I put on social media 10 years ago. This is called the 5-minute lesson plan. It's been downloaded 1 million times on my website. Essentially, I'm saying here, don't fill in the form. It's a thought process. Planning lessons is a thought process. So it follows a what, objectives is what, why is this important to teach the children, when they leave and come back to you the next day, how are you going to test that they know it? So what strategies will you use? So we talk about memory, or questioning, or I can go thumbs up, thumbs down, or show me a little whiteboard. And then how you do it is everything else. So it's a what, why, how method. And the how part is what you do in your classroom, whether you teach 4-year-olds or 18-year-olds, or maybe even adults. Another idea, I probably won't be able to do this, I'll do some more workshop. I'm going to show you how I've written 6 books, 2,000 articles, and held a busy job. Does anybody use voice technology? Anybody? A couple of people. It's on your phones and it's free. I basically just speak to my device and it types it up for me so I don't have to type it. So I'll do a demonstration in my Mark Plan Teach workshop. So my last book, I spoke to it on the computer. I used this piece of software called Dragon Dictate. And I'm sure it works in Russian. It learns your accents, the grammar, punctuation marks. You don't even need to use your hands. You just speak to the computer. So when I was writing my book, I was just checking to see that it heard me correctly. And the more times you do it, the more sophisticated it becomes. So that'll be my top tip for everybody. It will change your life. It will change your life. And it's on your phones as well. So I text my wife just by speaking very quickly. Okay? Easy. Last one. Verbal feedback. I'm going to share this tomorrow in my workshop. When teachers speak to children, Instead of marking their books, it makes no difference to their exam score. In some respects, it makes their exams better because the teacher's having regular conversations. Behind the scenes, there's lots of research and scripts. So I say things very punctual in a 4 or 5 minute script. Okay, and I work through the classroom over a sequence of lessons. And that's what the research said. So I'll just kind of show you those are the schools, the 7 schools across England for 1 year. And the schools took part in lots of the research. They went off and this was their research question. And they spent a whole year just doing this. They spent 1 day coming up with this question and arguing about it. So the key one there was the word engagement. What does engagement mean? Better behaviour, asking questions in class, reduction in exclusions, better punctuality, lots of things. So we defined that. I will finish off with that's the method. I'm going to share this tomorrow in the workshop of the research framework they use. That's a really good start for busy classroom teachers.
Mother, there's a side to me you don't know, different to the child with the smile in your photos. Made some decisions, some wrong, some right. Now strangers hold my number when I'm sleeping at night.